The story takes place during the 100-Year War, where a legendary guy operated from the shadows toward the end of the conflict. His name was Riot Burger, the expert on magic items who took down thousands of enemies. During this intense struggle, he would come face to face with sinister beasts that threatened the entire world. The man fought against bizarre monsters with super strong powers that destroyed everything in their path. This hero used his wild, glowing magic chains to hold back all these dangers. He also had to hunt down and put a stop to the evil men who controlled these horrible creatures. And following orders, he would take out anyone who was foolish enough to aim a weapon at him. But when the war ended, this legendary warrior simply vanished without a trace. Years later, in a peaceful place, a boy calls out to an old man with glasses who was just relaxing. The boy says he wants to train with a sword and asks if the grandpa knows a good way to start. The grandpa says that's a crazy idea and tells Ray to go sweep the dry leaves in the yard. Ray is confused and asks his grandfather why he's saying that, since he's used a sword before. The grandpa just replies that those days are over, and that now he can barely lift a heavy sword. The kid cracks up and agrees, saying his grandpa has less muscle than him these days. Ray stretches and says he wanted to train to get a foundation for his academy's important test. With a very determined smile, he shares that he found something he wants to do, but it's still a secret. The boy runs happily up the stairs while his grandfather stays there, thinking at the counter. The grandfather realizes sadly that his grandson has already grown up, and now it's time for him to follow his own path. He thinks that he needs to live longer as he remembers the time his grandson was born. Back then, he still spent his entire day involved in fierce and brutal battles. The warrior would face a bunch of knights in armor and take them down with pinpoint accuracy. He continued to end lives without stopping, even if it meant getting badly hurt in the fight. Rage would take him over as he continued his endless rampage against all his enemies. This routine of fighting non-stop for his country eventually turned him into a cold combat weapon. All this conflict came at a high price, and even destroyed the photo of the family he loved. A very loud noise echoes everywhere as flames quickly begin to burn everything around. The intense fire burns the village houses, turning the place into a scene of pure destruction. The warrior arrives at the ruined place and finds a couple on the ground, lifeless and covered in red. He shouts, completely devastated and desperate, wanting to know who took their lives. In the middle of all that silence, a baby's very faint cry begins to echo, catching his attention. Protected by his parents' bodies, little Ray was crying hard under the warm rubble. The man's expression changes instantly when he realizes the little baby managed to survive the tragedy. He kneels on the destroyed earth and carefully and emotionally picks up the child. The little one reaches out his hands and touches the powerful and startled warrior's blood-stained face. The baby gives a pure smile right in the middle of the chaos, bringing a bit of peace to the warrior's heart. A few tears begin to stream down the warrior's face, who is super touched by this gesture. He vows to protect the orphaned child, who became a new light in his world with his own life. Back in the present, the grandpa walks to a locked door, determined to help his grandson in any way he can. He uses a very old key to open the giant padlock and the chains that sealed the door. The old man opens the passage, revealing a dark staircase that leads to a very strange basement. In the back of the basement, some lamps reveal a mysterious figure sitting down, covered by a cloth. The old man approaches silently and pulls off the cloth, revealing what he had been hiding for years. It was a human-like doll, identical to the warrior back when he was still a young man. He knows very well that his old and tired body won't be able to hold on for much longer. But with that special spare body in hand, he still has a chance to continue his mission. Suddenly, a voice from upstairs interrupts him, calling for someone at the shop's entrance. The man rushes back to the counter and greets the strange customer, asking what he wants. The masked guy speaks in a strange way, saying he's looking for super powerful mythical items. The old man is completely shocked and on high alert upon hearing such a strange request from the customer. The intruder moves very fast and says it was a lot of trouble to find Riot Burger. He shows a dagger, saying he's after the magic tools created by the so-called assassin doll. The intruder advances quickly, arrogantly saying he's going to take everything he finds in the place. He makes a final strike to try and eliminate the old man and steal all the special items at once. A very strong blue energy glows in the room, blocking the masked man's surprise attack. The villain gives a smirk, realizing the old man managed to react in an incredible way. Riot uses his power to create magic tools to summon a glowing shield out of thin air. The shield, called the Sacred Aegis, provides a perfect divine defense that nullifies any damage below its limit. The experienced grandpa seriously confronts the enemy, wanting to know where he got his information. The criminal responds mockingly, warning the old man that staring at him angrily is useless. He prepares to attack again and confesses that, in the end, he was just hired by someone. Knowing this, the old man decides to go all out and once again activates his power to create weapons from nothing. A very strong blast of blue magic energy takes over the entire shop, destroying everything. The force of the impact is so absurd that it throws the intruder far away, making the guy lose his balance. A very strong magical light starts to gather in the old man's hands, preparing a legendary item. He summons the mighty sacred sword Excalibur, which maximizes his strength and magical power. Holding the hilt of the mythical sword tightly, the old man warns that the enemy will tell him everything. He points the glowing blade and demands to know his master's location right now. The intruder admits the warrior's pressure is intense but smiles as if he has a backup plan. He lunges forward, shouting that the old man can't hide the weakness of his old and tired body. The two exchange fierce blows, and the old man starts to feel extreme fatigue weighing on his muscles. At that moment, young Ray walks into the shop out of nowhere, calling for his grandpa, and sees the fight right in front of him. The old man is completely terrified to see his beloved grandson return at the worst possible moment. The villain flashes a cruel smile, while the grandpa desperately yells for the young man not to come any closer. The intruder gets behind the boy, using the item Echo of Memories, and makes a bell ring in the room. Riot runs in desperation, cursing as he realizes the terrible effect the bell has on people. The masked man holds Ray, praising the young man's body, who now has a hypnotized look. The boy pulls out a golden sword under the villain's command, and prepares to fight his grandfather. In a taunting tone, Ray warns that the battle might be a little tough for the grandpa's fragile body. The boy lunges forward very quickly and delivers a surprise attack that leaves his grandfather stunned by the betrayal. Riot is forced to block his grandson's blade, feeling immense pain in his heart at this scene. The old man knows that the magic bell has the power to alter memories and control people. He realizes his grandson has been brainwashed, and that he needs to defeat the guy who summoned the bell. The other option would be to give Ray a strong impact to the head to make him snap out of the trance. Unable to attack the real culprit, the old man regrets having no choice but to strike his grandson. With all his precision, he delivers a perfect blow to disarm and immobilize the boy without hurting him. He silently asks the boy forgiveness as he prepares to deliver the blow to break the spell. The old man lands the precise hit and releases a wave of blue energy to nullify the bell in Ray's mind. A curtain of dust and smoke rises into the air after the impact, separating the two in the middle of the room. The young man collapses unconscious near the wall, while the villain taunts that the old man shows no mercy to his family. Riot replies with a killer look, saying he knows very well how to control his strength to protect. Seeing that his plan failed, the masked man retreats angrily, realizing things have gotten complicated. Suddenly, a giant golden light descends from the sky, breaking the ceiling and surprising everyone. In the middle of the bright light, an imposing figure appears, seeming to calmly analyze the situation. A warrior in golden armor says that a random henchman would never defeat the legendary warrior. The masked henchman trembles in fear upon realizing the arrival of that super powerful person. Riot sweats nervously as he feels the sinister pressure coming from the new person who invaded the place. The old man goes on full alert, recognizing that this bizarre energy is on another level. The mysterious warrior raises her golden sword, making the old man realize the situation has turned grim. As he tries to prepare for the worst, Riot's chest starts to hurt badly, as if his heart is failing. He doubles over in pain, cursing for having a heart attack at the most dangerous moment of his life. The mysterious warrior advances very quickly and delivers a super strong golden strike on the defenseless old man. Her cold gaze is completely focused on ending the fight once and for all, without a second thought. Riot tries to resist, using all the remaining strength of his sword Excalibur to hold back the attack. He cracks the floor with the pressure but refuses to give up, even with his tired and aged body. The warrior shouts with grit that his mind and his fighting skills will never weaken. Drops of red start to drip onto the cold floor, showing the physical toll he's suffering. The old man's eyes widen as he realizes something horrible is happening right in front of him in the middle of the fight. He focuses his tired vision on the terrible surprise that appeared treacherously right behind him. Young Ray appears out of nowhere and stabs his own grandfather in the back, leaving the old man in shock. Riot spits out red and whispers his beloved grandson's name while the boy continues to have a cold look. Soon after, the purple smoke vanishes and Ray's eyes return to normal, indicating he has woken up. The young man regains consciousness and sees his grandfather gravely wounded right there, not understanding anything. He is completely shocked and confused upon realizing that he was the one who hurt his own grandfather. Ray looks at his own trembling hands and at the red on the sword, falling into total despair. Even though he's badly wounded, the old man uses his last bit of strength to deliver a wind strike and push the enemies away. A giant curtain of dust and smoke rises into the air after the warrior's desperate attack. The young man coughs in the middle of the dust, trying to recover from the impact as the mist settles. He starts to scream desperately for his grandfather, wanting to make sure the old man is still alive. Suddenly, a frightening silhouette appears behind the boy, warning him that he's just getting in the way. Fallen on the ground without strength, the old warrior realizes with fear that his body can't move. He is losing a lot of red and pleads in his thoughts for the enemy not to get any closer to his grandson. Ray positions himself to protect and warns the intruder that he won't show any mercy if she touches his grandfather. The warrior just stares at him with a cold and bored look, showing no concern at all. The old man desperately begs the boy to run, knowing the young man doesn't stand a chance against her. The young man gulps but keeps his gaze firm, determined to protect the one who always took care of him. The opponent with golden eyes analyzes the boy's stance with contempt, preparing the final attack. She takes a firm step forward, indicating that she's going to end this nonsense without any mercy. A sadistic and cruel smile appears on the enemy's face, who is amused by the family's desperation. The boy gathers all his courage and lunges forward, delivering a desperate strike with his sword at his rival. The grandfather screams in complete despair upon seeing his grandson throw himself into a suicidal attack against certain doom. A swift, brutal slash happens in an instant, and a shocking amount of red sprays through the cold air. The horrible scene is reflected in the old man's eyes, who watches the tragedy unfold, powerless to do anything. He fondly remembers his grandson's happy smile as his heart breaks into pieces. The final blow is delivered with absurd force, staining the whole place with a bright red. The warrior cleans her sword while the masked henchman complains about her leaving clues behind. The old warrior agonizes on the floor, slowly dragging himself with the little life he has left. He extends his trembling hand toward his grandson as he hears heavy footsteps approaching. The rival gets close, taunting him, and recalls that in the past he was the strongest, and today he's a failure. She coldly raises her giant golden blade to deliver the final blow to the fallen legendary hero. A very loud sound of a slash echoes in the darkness as the blade takes the life of the former warrior. In the middle of the dark void, a small blue magic flame begins to float mysteriously. The warrior's soul laments in the darkness for not being able to save his grandson from that fate. He weeps as he remembers that the boy was the only light that saved him from despair after losing his family. The memories of all the happy moments he spent raising the boy pass through his sad mind. The image of Ray's smile shines brightly in the middle of the cold and lonely darkness of the afterlife. A giant rage consumes his soul, and he vows to get revenge on everyone responsible for this. Suddenly, a system message announces that the condition to awaken the secret skill has been met. The power limit of the assassin doll is released, and the soul descends to the artificial body in the basement. The system confirms that because of the awakening, the user's soul will be transferred to the doll. A giant red flame envelopes the artificial body, which begins to awaken with a new power. He rises from the chair, showing his new, young form surrounded by a sinister red energy. The new artificial body's eyes open, glowing brightly with the desire for revenge. He now lives in the reincarnation doll, a perfect mythical item he himself created in the past. Mythical tools are the most powerful and forbidden creations that defy the laws of nature. These super, rare magic items were all crafted by the legendary and brilliant artisan, Riot Burger. They are forbidden tools that can distort and control the laws of time and space. A power that would make the whole world tremble, and that the rulers of all kingdoms desperately wanted. Among these mythical rarities was a magic pipe that let the user see the future. There was also a special vehicle that worked like magic wings, allowing jumps through space. Another mythical creation was a bright magic key made to open hearts and pull out secrets. There was even a tuning harp specially made to manipulate anyone's emotions. However, most of these legendary and mystical relics were completely lost to mystery. All these special items disappeared without a trace as soon as the artisan Riot vanished during the war. Back at the destroyed scene, the henchman complains about the orders to leave no living witnesses. He grumbles that his partner's dramatic entrance caused confusion and will be a hassle to clean up. Holding a pendant, he jokes that at least he deserves to keep that valuable reward. The protagonist, now reborn in his doll, vows to put an end to the criminal's cruel plans. He reveals that he created that body just to continue taking care of his grandson. But the scum destroyed his peace. Using his power, he creates a giant and terrifying cleaver called Guillotine, the blade of blood. With a deep hatred, he coldly repeats that the monsters made the worst mistake by attacking the boy. The Reborn one advances very quickly to punish the enemy, warning that every cowardly act has a consequence. The masked henchman senses the deadly danger coming his way and desperately tries to react. The powerful blow cuts through the air with great precision and force, delivering a final strike against the intruder. The protagonist coldly stares at his opponent, promising to make the guy pay for all the pain he caused. Silence and a cold mist take over the desolate valley, surrounded by abandoned buildings. The hero uses a shovel to dig a grave in the earth, paying his last respects in that place. Riot closes his eyes in pain as he whispers his grandson's name, suffering greatly from the loss of his boy. He remembers when little Ray would run happily through the forest, calling for him with a smile. Another sweet memory surfaces of the boy having dinner and playfully complaining about the games. He also remembers when the boy, having trouble sleeping, would look for his grandpa, asking for affection. Until the moment the young man excitedly confided that he had found a secret goal. The protagonist takes a deep sigh, storing all that precious pain deep inside his immortal chest. He deeply regrets the fact that he never had the chance to hear what his grandson's life dream was. He focuses his hatred on the mysterious warrior responsible for the tragedy, known as the Client. With his eyes glowing with rage, he vows to track down that mastermind and make her pay with her life. Besides revenge, he needs to recover the stolen mythical items, using the pendant as a clue. The hero analyzes the mysterious pendant and recognizes the symbol of the dangerous and secretive Yugen tribe. Activating his ability, he summons the star compass, which reads information and can find the owners. He knows that if he follows the tribe's clues one by one, he'll be able to find the Client's location. The mystical artifact points a direct route on the map, making the hero decide to attack their base first. He arrives at the indicated location and observes the entrance to the hidden fortress, knowing he's in the right place. That isolated tribe possesses incredible dark techniques that make their assassins greatly feared. They use soul reading to extract memories from bodies, serving as spies in the war. The warrior walks firmly across the bridge that leads to the feared Valley of Bones, the tribe's village. He thinks that he acted discreetly for years, making it almost impossible for anyone to find him. But knowing the assassins are from the Yugen clan changes everything, as they hunt and take out anyone. They eliminate their targets and rip the memories from the bodies until they can find a clue to the hero. As he walks thoughtfully, the protagonist is surprised by a sword pointed at his neck. The masked guard warns that only clan members know this place and demands to know who he is. Several hooded warriors emerge from the shadows, surrounding the hero and threatening to finish him. The protagonist looks at the guard mockingly, asking if he thinks an intruder would answer. The masked guard loses his patience instantly and orders the others to take him out without another chance. Several enemies attack at once, but Riot moves quickly, easily blocking all the blows. One of the guards is completely shocked, noticing the intruder's absurd speed. A strong counter-attack makes the ground tremble, scattering rocks and dust all over the entrance. The guards retreat in fear, noticing that their sharp weapons simply broke against the hero. Unable to use blades, the assassins decide to resort to their powers and launch spells at him. They fire purple magic blasts, shouting that they'll identify the intruder by what's left. A large cloud of smoke forms after the impact, hiding the result for a moment. In the middle of the dust, the protagonist walks out casually and brushes his shoulder, having taken no damage. The clan members panic and shout, asking if that young man is some kind of monster. Riot coldly states that they must have hunted every person who dared to cross his path. He asks with a dark look how many innocent lives they took to get the memories. The trembling guard tells him to shut up as the hero activates his ability to create magic weapons. He summons the terrible Iron Maiden, a mystical medieval torture instrument made of steel. The hero coldly says that the only thing he really wants to hear from the assassins are their screams. One of the guards is forcibly locked inside the instrument and starts to scream in pain from the spikes. Red starts to seep through the metal cracks, showing the fate of those who challenge the hero. The hall becomes filled with these iron structures covered in red as the protagonist walks on without looking back. The red from the defeated enemies spreads across the stone floor, confirming the end of all the guards. Later, one of the assassins who had fainted starts to slowly regain consciousness. He looks around and panics upon realizing all his companions have been taken down. Riot appears before him, warning that he spared only his life, and the survivor asks what he wants. The protagonist pulls out a glowing dagger, warning that he just needs to answer to avoid the pain. With red eyes of pure hatred, he presses the blade to the man's neck, wanting to know about the client. After the interrogation, the clan member is tied to a chair, all bloodied after the ordeal. The hero realizes the prisoner really didn't know anything useful and regrets that the lead went nowhere. He searches every corner of the enemy base, and the only thing he finds is a document with a list. In the darkness of the basement, the protagonist analyzes the old papers stored among the boxes. The list shows the names of important officials, but he notices that some pages have been torn out. He lets out an irritated sigh and deduces that the culprit was very clever to destroy the information. The hero thinks that the mastermind's strength indicates they must be an S-class adventurer in the kingdom. He also recalls the warrior's words, revealing she knew about his former fighting fame. This leads the hero to seriously conclude that the mysterious mastermind was someone he knew from the war. But he decides not to jump to conclusions, knowing he needs more clues before acting. He continues looking at the client list until he suddenly comes across a name that catches his attention. With that unexpected discovery, the protagonist immediately decides on his next destination. The document reveals the identity and face of a well-dressed man who will be the next target. He knows that to get more clues about the client, he will need to interrogate people. And to obtain this secret information, the only path at the moment is to go after the man from the paper. The scene changes to a beautiful city, where the assassin doll will continue his journey of revenge. The protagonist calmly walks toward the giant mansion where his new target from the document lives. He stops before the gate of the luxury house, analyzing the security before silently breaking in. His firm and silent footsteps echo through the empty corridors as he searches for the main room. The hero enters a decorated office, observing the empty work desk in search of clues. He notices a picture frame with a photo of a happy family placed right on top of the desk. Suddenly, a man with glasses tries to strike him from behind with force, but Riot easily dodges. The hero's eyes widen as he notices something surprising and familiar in the guy's fighting stance. The two exchange quick and precise blows in the middle of the office, causing a whirlwind of papers. The man with glasses backs away after the exchange of attacks and suspiciously asks who the young intruder is. The man with glasses asks in surprise why the mysterious young intruder looks so much like his friend. Riot ironically comments that this is a very cold reception for people who haven't seen each other in so long. He adds that they are old friends and a warm hug would be much better. The man activates his iron arm technique and delivers a violent attack against the protagonist. The impact of the blow generates a strong whirlwind of wind and dust that destroys part of the decor. The force of the clash between the two is so intense that it completely shatters the mansion's glass window. The attacker steps back and looks at him suspiciously, demanding that he say who he really is. Riot just calmly adjusts his stance and asks why he is attacking an old friend. The man shouts in irritation, telling him to shut up, and lunges forward again, delivering another powerful punch. The protagonist silently wonders if his old companion really doesn't recognize his presence. He dodges every attack effortlessly, showing that his combat agility is perfect. The man with glasses is shocked to recognize the dodging moves that belonged to his former leader. The hero takes a firm step forward, calmly stating that he had already told him who he was. He faces him up close, reaffirming with authority that he is the same Riot who fought by his side in the war. To prove his identity, he delivers a precise kick, complaining about how many times he has to repeat it. The blow throws the man forcefully against the office floor, creating a crater in the mansion's flooring. Groaning in pain, he tries to get up from the rubble, feeling the full weight of the impact on his muscles. Riot watches his fallen companion and admits with an amused tone that he overdid it with the Force. The wounded man finally accepts reality and admits in shock that the intruder is the war hero. The old war companion named Lit Brown rubs his forehead, relieved but confused by the scene. The protagonist calmly sips some tea, pretending to be hurt because his friend took so long. He jokes about the other's aging, but Lit retorts that nobody gets younger out of nowhere. The friend also complains about the previous punch, pointing out that the blow was stronger than in his prime. The hero casually reveals that it's all thanks to the magic tools and that he expected him to notice. Lit Brown settles into his armchair and comments that those fighting days in the army are in the past. He sighs, remembering that after the war, everything changed, and he decided to disappear from major battles. The friend explains that people finally stopped fighting and are now focused on rebuilding their lives. The markets are bustling again, and children can now run free without the threat of war. He says that he also started a family and is now a major local merchant. Riot praises his former soldier's major career change, and the friend proudly agrees. Then, Lit asks what the former leader is up to, showing up with that youthful appearance. The protagonist lowers his gaze sadly as he prepares to tell the reason for his return. He reveals in a low voice that he had also become a grandfather before suffering the worst tragedy of his life. He warns that the story is long and asks if his old companion is willing to hear everything. Silence fills the room as the tragic story of his grandson Ray's passing is revealed. After hearing the whole truth, the merchant holds his teacup seriously, lamenting what happened. He takes a sip of tea and confesses with regret that his former commander went through hell. He deduces that Riot found his name on the Yugen tribe's list, and that's why he came looking for him at the mansion. The hero smirks, commenting that he never imagined his partner would be involved with criminals. Lit Brown justifies himself by saying that business has its complications and asks what he plans to do. The protagonist clenches his fist firmly, declaring that his final decision has already been made. With a look gleaming with pure hatred, he coldly states that his only goal is revenge. Lit Brown pauses and asks if a killing spree would really be what little Ray would have wanted. The hero gives an enigmatic smile, replying that no one knows what departed would want. He states that evil deeds require punishment and that this revenge is his way of being responsible. He adds to his friend that the violent hunt is not just motivated by his grandson's passing. The hero remembers that the mythical tools were stolen and that if they fall into the wrong hands, it will be chaos. He explains that the entire world could be destroyed if the villains use the power of the relics. The friend agrees with the gravity of the situation and asks if the plan is to hunt down the secret mastermind. The hero confirms his objective and asks his friend for help, who immediately accepts, asking what he needs. Riot hands over a folded piece of paper containing a detailed list of rare materials he needs. He reveals that he is going to forge a new and powerful magic tool to defeat that mastermind. The merchant analyzes the paper seriously and agrees to use his network to get the parts. Then, Lit Brown warns that there is one more very important detail that his friend needs to know. He recalls that Riot was connected and asks if he knows how to get into the Dark Spy Guild. The meeting place is known as the Board of Ruin. Hidden inside the Kubrick Library, the capital's huge public archive serves only as a facade to hide dark secrets. The old building's true purpose is to conceal the secret passage that leads to the assassin's headquarters. The protagonist calmly walks between the shelves, looking for specific volumes on the bookcase. He begins to pull and move the books in the correct order to activate the wall's secret mechanism. A loud mechanical noise echoes through the silent hall, indicating that the passage has been unlocked. A crack opens in the wall, revealing a dark staircase that leads to the depths of the guild. He calmly descends the torch, lit spiral stairs without a care in the world. The hero observes the giant underground environment that begins to reveal itself before his eyes. He arrives at the Grand Hall of the Rounds Guild, surrounded by decorations of pure, strange bluish magic. Suddenly, a giant muscular warrior jumps from above, launching a surprise attack in his direction. A red shockwave erupts from the impact, but the protagonist easily dodges the blow. He catches the enemy's spiked weapon with one hand, commenting on the violent reception. The attacker introduces himself as Randold and warns with a smile that things in the underworld are brutal. The muscular warrior cheerfully greets the guild's receptionist as if it were normal. The smiling Mina attends to the two, warning that all jobs offered in the guild are dangerous. She warns that entering without grit will cause pointless ends, and that cleaning up the mess costs money. When asked if he really wants to register, the hero confirms, saying that's why he came. The receptionist informs him that he will take an admission test and asks him to choose a codename. He reflects silently that he needs a completely new name to avoid being tracked. The hero searches for an identity that will help him in his hunt and represent his purpose. The protagonist's gaze shines intensely with a firm decision made in his heart. He gives an enigmatic smile, confirming that he has finally chosen the perfect codename for himself. He asks to be registered under the name of Ray, paying one last tribute to his beloved grandson. The receptionist calls him Mr. Ray and informs him that the official test will begin at that moment. The protagonist calmly asks about the details of the test, and the girl just confirms with a smile. She opens a giant iron door and asks the two to follow her while she explains the rules. Mina explains that, just like in the regular guild, they classify all missions by levels. She shows that there are 7 ranks and warns that even the lowest F-level missions have risks. The hero understands that the test is to keep only the strongest and maintain the guild's high standards. The receptionist cheerfully agrees, saying they can't trust amateurs because it's a business. The hero reflects that it's sad to see that businesses based on taking lives still exist in peace. As they descend the stairs, Randall strikes up a conversation, asking if the protagonist will also take the exam. The brutish warrior smiles, saying yes, because in the guild, he gets paid to do any job. He looks at his own trembling hand, confessing that he loves to choose missions where he can take people out. The brute makes an insane expression, saying that just imagining combat makes his body tremble. Mina casually comments that the guild is always full of violent warriors like that man. The group finally reaches the bottom of the descent, and the hero observes the place prepared for the test. It's a giant circular underground arena known as the Offering Pit. The friendly receptionist announces that the exam will begin shortly and asks the candidates to descend. The protagonist walks to the edge of the stone pit, calmly observing the dark structure. He enters the arena, along with the other candidates who seem nervous as they wait for it to begin. Positioned on the upper part of the pit, Mina excitedly shouts, asking if everyone is ready. One of the brutes roars in anger, telling them to start already and threatens to take out the first person who appears. The protagonist just watches the impatience with disdain and comments on the short temper. The receptionist, with a smile, asks all the warriors to look down at their feet. The competitors look at the ground intrigued, not understanding what the surprise of the moment is. Suddenly, a glowing crack appears, splitting the arena floor and startling everyone there. The floor begins to open, revealing a sea of boiling lava bubbling right below everyone. The unbearable heat starts to rise rapidly, making the warriors sweat nervously. She excitedly explains that over time the floor will disappear, and the only way to survive is... At that instant, several heavy chains begin to descend from the ceiling, catching the protagonist's attention. Mina announces that once the ground completely disappears, whoever is still alive will pass. The receptionist waves cheerfully, wishing everyone good luck and asking them to do their best. The men start to complain desperately, saying the chains are too high. A mage with glasses celebrates arrogantly, saying the air is his territory to shine. He uses his special air walking technique to float up to the chains easily. Another competitor roars in anger, cursing the mage for trying to get ahead and cheat his way through. The mage laughs mockingly as he reaches out to grab the first metal chain. A warrior with a bandana smiles wickedly, raising a finger and warning that he won't let him. He activates his secret ability of vector alteration to change the direction of forces. Under the effect of the magic, the mage loses control of his body and starts plummeting towards the lava. The man with glasses screams in complete despair as he realizes he's falling straight into the fire. He falls headfirst into the sea of boiling lava, being completely consumed by the flames. The cheater laughs loudly, warning that trying to save himself alone was a knave move by the mage. Randall roars with insane laughter, shouting that just surviving by hanging would be boring. He starts to spin his heavy weapon, promising to take out everyone until only he is left. The competitors tremble with hatred as they realize the test was designed for them to take each other out. A violent battle begins in the pit, with the warriors attacking each other in the midst of the smoke. The protagonist remains standing with his arms crossed, watching the carnage unfold. He silently wonders if this admission test really boils down to a free-for-all. In the midst of the confusion, the men continue to run and duel, trying to ensure their survival. Randold approaches the hero, complaining about his calm posture and telling him to stop acting so cocky. He challenges the protagonist to a fight while the hero remains still. Riot coldly replies, telling the brute not to bother, as he wouldn't last. The giant roars in fury, but the hero warns that he should be focusing on how he's going to survive. He points to the ceiling, explaining that even if he takes everyone out, it will be useless if he can't reach it. The giant stops for a thoughtful moment and reluctantly admits that the young man has a point. He then looks to the side with a wicked smile, planning a cruel alternative to get up. The giant grabs a smaller warrior by the hair and throws him upwards with all his strength. The thrown man manages to desperately hold onto the metal chain, relieved not to fall. Suddenly, the chains start to glow an orange-red, burning the skin. The warrior screams in agony as he feels his hands sizzling on the metal, superheated by the warmth. Unable to bear the pain, he lets go of the chain and starts to fall straight into the lava pit. Randold laughs loudly, commenting that it was a close call and complains that the hero almost convinced him to climb. The unfortunate man plummets into the pit of flames as the warriors realize the chains are burning hot. The giant observes the chaos around him with mockery, stating that now that he understands, it's easy. Another combatant in the arena is shocked as he is suddenly grabbed by the brutish warrior. The giant violently grabs the trembling opponent's head, showing his absurd strength. The captive tries desperately to break free, but realizes he is completely trapped in the grip. The giant begins to use the others' bodies as support and steps of a human ladder to climb. He crushes and suffocates the competitors without mercy as they scream in pain under his strength. From above, the receptionist watches the bizarre scene with amusement, commenting that his method is bold. The brute smiles sadistically, mockingly thanking the men for serving as support. The protagonist watches the scene with a look of contempt, thinking about what scum that man is. Randold taunts the protagonist, saying the floor is about to disappear and calls for him to come up. The big man gives a cruel smile as he notices all the other participants have already fallen into the lava. The hero silently observes the scene of destruction as the bodies are consumed in the lava. He repeats the word sacrifices, intrigued by the merciless method the brute used. The protagonist moves forward quickly, stating with disdain that he doesn't need anyone to get there. Randold is completely shocked to be surprised by an agile attack from above. The young hero calmly rests his foot on the brute's head while holding the chain. He reveals with a serious look that his artificial doll body is immune and feels no heat. The scene changes to the main square in front of the grand headquarters of the kingdom's knightly order. The citizens chat excitedly about finally getting the chance to see the legendary hero, the Sword Star. The people comment with great admiration on the absurd strength of the kingdom's greatest knight. The crowd feels safe knowing the Empire's protection is in the hands of that hero. A woman in the square shouts, pointing to the entrance of the royal palace, catching everyone's attention. The crowd goes wild, celebrating the warrior's return with petals and cheers. The knight slowly closes his eyes, maintaining a calm posture amidst the celebration. The hero known as Sir Haste appears, imposing in his beautiful armor in the middle of the hall. Back in the lava pit, the protagonist continues to hold the iron chain firmly without getting burned. On the balcony above, the observers shout in surprise, seeing the ease with which the young man passed. The examiners comment with a laugh that this new candidate is interesting and livened up the test. But the protagonist knows that this is just the beginning of his journey to unmask the leaders. The woman with black hair comments with a cruel smile that there hasn't been enough of a show yet. Randold roars with rage and humiliation, demanding that the boy immediately get his foot off his face. Riot just gives a mocking smile and thanks him for being an excellent stepping stone. The hero leaps, propelling his body upward, and kicks the big man hard, making him fall. The receptionist congratulates the survivors on a job well done as the hero returns to the hall. She announces that the only ones who passed the test were the protagonist and the gigantic, angry warrior. The girl hands him the papers and says she will formalize his registration to start as rank F. She explains with a cheerful smile that both new assassins and missions are ranked. She shows the rank chart, revealing that he will need to complete several contracts to move up. The hero finds the system simple, but she warns that even the lowest tasks are life-threatening. The receptionist complains about how many quit halfway through, leaving a huge amount of work for the guild. She explains that members of the higher ranks are warriors who have survived dangers, These war veterans are known for carrying a vast amount of experience in their operations. She adds that reaching rank S grants access to secrets and archives. This valuable access grants permission to enter the legendary library of secret archives. She encourages the protagonist to climb to the top to get lucrative and important missions. Riot realizes that the library is exactly the source he needs to uncover his rival. The protagonist gets straight to the point and asks what the fastest way to reach rank S is. Suddenly, the young man with the braid appears from behind, mockingly replying that the only way is to take people out. The girl is in a state of shock and stammers as she recognizes the presence of that mysterious boy. She whispers in fear, revealing that the young prodigy has already been approved for rank S. The boy introduces himself as Gaia and proudly flaunts his position as the absolute leader of rank A. The protagonist looks at him seriously, realizing he is facing one of the most lethal warriors. She says that the young operative joined the guild at 5 years old and has already eliminated thousands of targets. Gaia walks beside him with a friendly tone, asking if the hero also wants rank S. The boy's expression suddenly changes to a frightening one, and he disdainfully warns that it's not going to happen. He points out that during the test, the protagonist just stood there watching the mayhem without fighting. The prodigy stares at him with a dark look, reinforcing that the hero was not capable of taking lives. He leans in close to the protagonist, mockingly saying that he can smell him. The young prodigy ends the conversation by whispering that the hero exudes a fake scent of a good guy. The hero mentally repeats the boy's words, trying to understand what he meant. The young operative questions the logic of leaving people alive who might seek revenge. He reluctantly admits that the protagonist does indeed possess excellent combat skills. With a psychopathic look, the boy states that the only way to win is by annihilating rivals. The hero just listens to the insane speech of that child in silence, maintaining his cold gaze. The operative says the guild was made only for people who love to see the red of their targets. He warns threateningly that acting with so much pity in the arena will cost the hero his life. Instead of being intimidated by the provocation, the protagonist lets out a sarcastic laugh. The young prodigy gets irritated, asking what's so funny while the receptionist watches. The protagonist places a friendly hand on the boy's shoulder, pretending to be touched. He mocks, saying his heart warms to see the future rank S worrying about him. The young prodigy's eyes widen, and he grits his teeth in pure fury for being treated this way. The hero steps away, saying he appreciates the advice but has no time for childish games. The protagonist coolly adds that if taking out the boy guaranteed his promotion to rank S, he wouldn't hesitate to take off that arrogant boy's head, right then and there. The young man shoves the hero's hand away, shouting in disgust for him never to dare touch him again. Consumed by hatred, he shouts, asking if the hero thinks he can take him out after one simple test. The prodigy roars furiously, saying that a mere rank F rookie is already getting way too cocky. He activates his power, transforming into a wild beast, and warns that his opponent wouldn't last. The protagonist just calmly raises his left hand, showing a blue magic energy. The big man Randall suddenly appears between the two, telling them not to make plans without him. He grabs the hero by the collar with great anger and roars, stating that he will be the first to take him out. The protagonist just looks at him with a bored expression and coldly says not to waste his time. He adds that after he's gone, the big man won't be able to have any regrets. The brute is blinded with fury by the bold response and roars, asking what he just said. The giant places his huge hand on the hero's head, threatening to crush his skull right there. He boasts about his reputation as a heavy hitter, promising to destroy that young face in a second. The hero just lets out a wary sigh, showing he has no patience for this scum. Suddenly, the brute's eyes widen as he notices glowing threads closing in on his body. The protagonist precisely activates his magic creation ability to summon a trap. He materializes iron stakes connected by a super, sharp vibrating wire that cuts through anything. The big man screams in terror as he sees the cutting red lines begin to slice through his skin. The brute's red sprays violently across the walls, leaving the examiners surprised. The pieces of the giant's body fall to the arena floor, confirming the criminal's tragic end. Gaia advances with absurd speed, disdainfully stating that the hero defeated a loser. The beast boy tries to strike with his sharp claws, warning his opponent not to brag. The protagonist dodges with ease and ironically praises the young man's strength and speed. But with a calm look, he begins to manifest another of his incredible magic items. He summons the Scarlet Whip and points out that the boy's big mistake is attacking without thinking. The young prodigy is hit squarely by the energy whip, losing control of his advance. He manages to land on the ground, growling with hatred, and shouts that a weak hit is nothing. The hero appears right behind him with a glowing shield, commenting that he expected this reaction. A huge blue energy barrier manifests, perfectly blocking the beast's charge. The impact of the magic barrier generates a bluish shockwave, pushing the young operative back. The prodigy scrapes his claws on the ground, trying to stabilize himself while cursing the rookie's power. The protagonist looks at him with complete serenity, observing that the little boy is persistent. With a frightening smile, the beast roars that his true strength is on an extraordinary level. From above, the examiner watches the combat, shocked to recognize the item creation ability. She focuses her vision on the protagonist, realizing with dread that this fighting style belongs to someone. The boy launches himself off the arena wall with full force in a final attack, shouting that he will prove his power. The young man jumps at high speed, delivering several blows in the air while trying to break the barrier. Riot calmly observes the little operative's impressive agility and notices he's gotten faster. The boy moves like a purple blur, trying to surprise the protagonist from behind with his speed. With a sadistic smile, he roars, saying he has finally found an opening in his opponent's defense. But the hero reacts in a fraction of a second, activating his blue shield to block the physical attack. The protagonist looks at him up close and serenely comments that he still has a lot to learn. He warns with authority that he will personally prove how there will always be someone stronger. The examiner observes the hero's precise movements and begins to suspect his identity. Instead of retreating, the boy flashes an even more insane smile, praising his opponent's strength. He does a flip in the air, shouting that he now has an uncontrollable desire to slice up the protagonist. The hero just coldly warns that acting with such an arrogant temper will make him meet his end young. Gaia roars for his opponent to shut up and delivers an energy kick against the barrier. He lunges with sharp claws, declaring with hatred that he detests people who try to lecture him. The violent impact of his claws breaks the stone floor, kicking up dust and rocks everywhere. The young operative retreats with a backflip while the hero stands firm. The protagonist extends his arm, releasing a blast of bluish energy to repel his opponent. The force of the attack throws the boy violently against the ground, creating a crater in the arena. Even after taking the brutal impact, the boy gets up, laughing frighteningly. The hero adjusts his combat stance and challenges the young man to a real fight to see if he's worth it. The two warriors clash at high speed, causing a flash and releasing a wave of pressure. Suddenly, the silhouette of a giant purple snake appears behind them, interrupting the combat. The beautiful examiner introduces herself as Noise Haemon and warns them not to get too carried away. The boy roars furiously, telling the woman not to interfere because the warrior is his prey. She looks at him with a cold and magical glittery gaze, commenting that he is a rebellious child. The giant snake's tail strikes the boy squarely, throwing his body against the wall as a punishment. Noise just smiles sweetly, advising that he should listen respectfully to his elders. The young prodigy groans in pain on the floor, completely enraged for being interrupted. The boy shouts for her to stop treating people like toys as he heals his wounds. The protagonist watches the scene, amazed as he notices his opponent's impressive regeneration. He looks at the bizarre duo in front of him, wondering if those two monsters are human. The beautiful woman friendly suggests that the hero also put away his magic weapons if he wants to get out alive. The protagonist deactivates his power, aware that the woman is more dangerous than the boy he faced. She takes a few elegant steps towards the hero, maliciously asking if he's interested. Noise whispers in his ear, asking if his true goal is to gain access to the library. She states that this is the only reason for someone to be so obsessed with rank S and offers to help. The hero looks at her suspiciously, wanting to know right away what the intention is behind the offer. She explains that she has her own secret plans and that she needs a strong and obedient warrior. The beautiful woman hugs him from behind provocatively, complimenting the protagonist for being young and handsome. She whispers very closely, saying she specifically needs someone with the same characteristics. The hero coldly pulls away, commenting that the proposal sounds good, but the price is too high. She turns around smiling and warns that if he refuses, she will do everything to get in his way. The examiner calls the boy to leave, while the young prodigy complains about receiving orders. Gaia points at the protagonist, vowing that he will be the only one responsible for taking his life. The hero reflects that the situation has become annoying, but keeps his plan for revenge firm. He vows to himself that he will destroy any obstacle in his path to speed up his revenge. A week passes, and the scene shows the protagonist standing in the middle of a temple surrounded by blue energy. The guild receptionist screams in shock, unable to believe the news she received from him. She looks at a giant pile of completed mission documents as the hero confirms it. He hands over the last few sheets, calmly stating that he has successfully finished all the contracts. The girl trembles nervously, commenting that a common operative would take 2 years to do all that. He reflects silently that the speed would be impossible for any normal human being. But since the hero inhabits a doll's body, he is immune to fatigue and doesn't even need to eat. She checks the perfect reports and guarantees that at this rate, he will be promoted to rank D. He asks what the next step is, and she explains that from rank C onwards, you need recommendations. But she reveals that the hero has already received a direct recommendation from the powerful Noise Hamon. Surprisingly, the girl hands him a sealed envelope, informing him that he has also received an elimination contract. Upon opening the letter, the hero reads that the objective is to specifically eliminate a rank D adventurer. The receptionist comments that the recommendation is unbelievable, and the hero asks if it's unusual. She confirms, saying that Noise is simply the leader of the most powerful faction in the entire guild. The girl adds that the last person she recruited was the feared boy prodigy Gaia. The protagonist remembers his conversation with the villain and realizes she is playing from the shadows. He wonders what her real goal is in trying to gather so many subordinates. He analyzes the small card with a lipstick print that has the provocative phrase, "kiss or bite," written on it. He repeats the riddle thoughtfully, trying to decipher the real meaning of that hidden message. The scene changes to the outside of a beautiful medieval palace under a sunny blue sky. Inside the hall, several armored adventurers chat excitedly, drinking and organizing themselves. The hero silently observes the bustling place, confirming that it's the meeting point from the letter. He walks through the busy hall of the Adventurers Guild, disguised to avoid attracting attention. Suddenly, a well-dressed and smiling young blonde man waves cheerfully at the protagonist. The blonde man approaches, asking if he is the adventurer Ray, and the hero just nods. He introduces himself as Alexis Sleen, the skilled swordsman and leader of the Steel Wings group. The two share a friendly handshake, and the protagonist pretends to be an inexperienced rookie. The leader smiles, saying he's relieved, as adventurers with a magic pouch are very rare. The protagonist smiles back, pretending to agree while planning his next moves. The magic pouch ability is coveted because it allows one to store a lot of cargo in a dimensional space. In reality, the hero uses one of his mythical storage tools to replicate the effect. He intends to use the disguise of a porter to get close to the target without raising suspicion. The blonde leader turns enthusiastically to introduce the other members of the exploration group. He introduces the sweet cleric Carisha as the healer and the grumpy young Manain as the scout. The cleric Carisha Noir just looks away silently with a shy and thoughtful expression. The young thief Ainbot grumbles with contempt, warning that he has no interest in being friends with a rookie. He disdainfully says he just wants to finish the mission quickly, get the money, and disband the group. The blonde leader tries to calm things down, hugging his annoyed companion and asking them to get along. Ian completely loses his patience and grabs a heavy flower vase that was on the table next to them. In a fit of rage, he throws the vase at the leader's head and shouts for him to never touch him. The cleric gets scared while the leader tries to shrug off the blow, laughing and apologizing. The protagonist observes the scene, thinking that this is by far the group with the worst chemistry he has ever seen. He reflects that he doesn't know what reason led someone to order the young leader's demise, but he focuses his cold gaze on Alexis Sleen's smiling face, knowing that his fate has been sealed. The hero coldly concludes that to achieve his final goal, that swordsman will have to be taken out. 1 week earlier, Alexis was in front of a meeting table with holographic figures discussing. He gives a greedy smile, promising his superiors that he will secure the item. Alexis reveals that the main target of his search is the legendary mythical item that Riot Burger left behind. Back in the present, the group finally enters the first floor of the dark and dangerous dungeon. Alexis stands out on the front line, activating his parry technique to nullify the blows. He blocks the devastating punch of a huge flaming stone golem that was guarding the corridor. The giant flaming monster is pushed back after its violent charge is neutralized. Ein takes advantage of the perfect opening and jumps from above with his daggers, ready to deliver a lethal blow. He uses his special deception ability to create illusions and confuse the golem's vision. With a furious cry, he plunges his glowing blade into the mud monster's core and disintegrates it. Ein delivers the final blow to the mud monster with his sharp dagger, causing an explosion of light. The golem's huge stone body begins to completely disintegrate, spreading dust. Alexis celebrates the victory and informs the group that they can now go to the main chamber. The protagonist silently analyzes the fight, thinking that the monsters are too easy for rank D. He reflects that in the current times of peace, the level of adventurers has declined quite a bit. The blonde leader kneels down to collect the bright golden magic stone left by the monster. He hands the precious item to the hero, asking him to store it in his pouch, and the protagonist obeys. Alexis thanks him with a beautiful smile, stating that having that support makes things much easier. Riot reflects that taking out the blonde man would be easy, but he needs to stage an accident to leave no clues. He knows very well that choosing the exact moment for the final strike will be crucial for the mission. The group finally stops in front of a huge red wooden door that leads to the boss. Upon opening the doors, they come face to face with the dungeon boss, a giant of flaming stone. Alexis points to the back of the chamber, reminding them that the real objective there is to get the chest. The chest, locked with heavy chains and a giant padlock, sits on top of a stone structure. He explains that inside the chest, there is a valuable mythical magic tool that will bring in money. The blonde man adds that if they can get the chest, they won't have to fight the boss. Ein questions him indignantly, stating that it's impossible to reach the treasure without defeating the monster. He points out that the boss blocks the entire path, and that entering the combat zone would be suicidal. Alexis lets out a sinister smile, agreeing with the situation, and prepares to reveal his plan. He reveals that even the greatest hero guild failed this mission, leaving Ein terrified. Alexis takes a calm step forward, reassuring the group by saying he has an ace up his sleeve. Suddenly, in a cowardly betrayal, the leader pushes the cleric Carisha straight into the boss's attack. Carisha turns around in complete shock, not understanding the reason for her leader's action. She falls helplessly on the chamber floor, while the young thief desperately screams for her. The giant flaming golem immediately detects the intruder and starts to move with fury. Ein runs in desperation and throws himself over the cleric to protect her from the immense stone fist. Alexis watches the whole scene with an evil smile, commenting that the stone giant has woken up. The young thief shouts, calling the leader a traitor, but Alexis tells him to shut up and listen to the plan. The blonde man reveals that as long as someone keeps the boss busy, a secret and safe path will open. The hero silently watches as stone platforms rise from the lava, creating the passage. He excitedly explains that with the shortcut activated, he can get the item and complete the mission. Ein roars with hatred upon realizing that the leader used his own group member as live bait. Alexis laughs insanely, stating that commoners exist only to serve as stepping stones. Ein retorts angrily, mocking the fact that Alexis is just a bankrupt noble who lost everything. The blonde man's smile instantly disappears, and he tells his companion to shut his mouth. He reveals with a psychopathic look that he knows very well about all the secrets the two of them were hiding. The blonde man reveals that he knows about their secret relationship and the acts considered impure by the two. Ein is completely speechless upon seeing his secret revealed while the cleric cries. He remembers that a cleric's loss of purity is a taboo and will lead to her execution. Alexis flashes another sadistic smile and states that they know their fate perfectly well. Carisha trembles in fear and cries silently, remembering the cruel punishments she would receive. Ein shouts, lunging furiously at the traitorous leader, wanting to put an end to the blackmailer. Alexis laughs and warns that he has no time for fights, as the golem is about to attack them. The colossal flaming stone golem roars furiously and raises its fist, preparing to strike. The giant beast focuses its destructive gaze directly on the defenseless and paralyzed cleric. The immense fist engulfed in flames descends at high speed, promising to crush everything. A devastating explosion of fire and rocks occurs with the impact of the golem's attack. In the middle of the smoke, Ein coughs heavily and hugs the girl desperately, asking if she can move. But before they could escape, the stone monster raises its fist again, preparing another attack. Ein grinds his teeth in pure desperation and tries to carry the cleric, even knowing there isn't enough time. Alexis watches the two running in escape, and coldly decides to leave them behind to their fate. He calls the protagonist, telling him to run quickly to ensure the chest's safety. Alexis warns that if the two of them are taken out, the secret path will close, and they need to get the chest. He says he doesn't know what magic item is inside the chest, but is counting on his dimensional pouch. The protagonist just listens to everything in complete silence, maintaining his rookie disguise. Riot thinks that this leader is truly a complete piece of human trash, justifying his contract. But instead of going to the chest, the hero calmly walks towards the combat, stating that he will help. The protagonist advances with firm steps towards the colossal flaming golem that was attacking. Alexis laughs, calling him stupid, and mocks, saying that a baggage carrier can't do anything. He warns that the young man will meet his end for nothing. But the hero just smiles and activates his materialization power. A huge explosion of blue energy shines in the place as he summons the legendary Excalibur. The hero's gaze shines intensely with a bluish hue, revealing his full combat power. With a single movement of his sacred sword, he delivers a giant slash that cracks the chamber. Alexis is in a complete state of shock, along with the others who watch the unbelievable scene. The hero silently sheathes his sword as the blue particles of his magic fade away. Ian and Carisha remain paralyzed on the ground, unable to comprehend how a rookie is so strong. The hero apologizes in a low voice and warns that from that moment on, the area is off limits. He uses the mystical perfume of silence, causing the pair of companions to fall asleep instantly. Alexis starts to tremble with terror upon realizing that the giant golem was destroyed with a single blow. Completely terrified, the blonde leader points his finger at the hero, demanding to know who he is. The hero responds with a cold whisper, revealing his true and legendary name, Riot Burger. The protagonist looks at him with a deadly gaze and warns with absolute coldness that he came to take him out. His slow and silent steps echo through the stone room as he prepares to finish it. A strong gust of wind cuts through the dungeon air, cornering the swordsman against the wall. Alexis sweats nervously upon hearing the legendary warrior's name and panics at his opponent. He tries to force a hysterical laugh, saying it's ridiculous for a porter to use a legend's name. But upon noticing the protagonist's seriousness, he trembles, asking if he is also after the item. The protagonist is slightly surprised and interested to hear the blonde man mention the theft. The hero asks where he got the information, and Alexis deduces that he got clothes out of interest. Alexis shouts angrily, saying that this valuable relic belongs exclusively to him, and attacks. But with a single precise movement, the hero shatters Alexis's blade into several pieces. He warns that since he was the one who defeated the boss, he will be the only one to open the treasure chest. The blonde man fumes, calling the protagonist a coward for hiding his power to steal the item. The hero ignores the insults and opens the chest, revealing red potions inside. He holds one of the vials and realizes with disappointment that it's just a common potion. The protagonist deduces that the blonde man was deceived by someone but concludes that the clue is genuine. The hero focuses his suspicions on the figure of Sir Haste, wondering if the blonde knight is behind it. Alexis approaches greedily, truly believing that the common potion is the legendary artifact. The blonde man orders him to hand over the potion, but the hero gives a mocking smile and suggests a deal. Alexis is completely confused and doesn't understand the point of that negotiation proposal. Riot pretends to negotiate, saying he can sell the item if the blonde man is willing to pay a lot. The swordsman roars furiously, stating that he doesn't care about the story and that he needs the item. With gritted teeth, he warns that if the hero doesn't hand over the vial, he will take it by force. The protagonist looks at him coldly, reminding him that the blonde man has already seen his strength against the golem. Alexis gulps and backs away, trembling, as he remembers how easily the monster was sliced up. Seeing that he has no chance in a fight, the blonde man gives up and agrees to negotiate the price. The hero smiles, demanding the absurd fortune of 100 million gold coins. Alexis falls into complete despair, shouting that that absurd amount would buy a mansion. The hero mockingly suggests that he ask his secret master for help, revealing his plan. Alexis grits his teeth, consumed by a blind rage, shouting for the protagonist to stop messing with him. Alexis boasts, claiming he works for the Fire Dragon clan and that 100 million is pocket change. The hero reflects silently, confirming that the Great Guild is the one providing the information. The blonde man orders him to hand over the vial immediately, and the protagonist agrees to the deal. The protagonist throws the vials towards Alexis with complete indifference to the potions. The blonde swordsman grabs the vials in the air with extreme greed, letting out a victorious laugh. Alexis flashes a psychopathic smile, mocking the protagonist and calling the hero a complete idiot. He shouts while running away that this item is his ticket back to nobility. Riot just smiles, saying he expected that betrayal, and pulls out his magic tool. In a fraction of a second, the invisible and cutting threads close around Alexis. The blonde man's eyes widen in confusion as he feels the sharp lines slicing his skin and spilling red. The red sprays violently across the large doors, sealing the noble's tragic fate. Alexis's body completely disintegrates in a pool of red, confirming the elimination. The protagonist looks at him with disdain, stating with total coldness that he was already marked. A short time later, the young thief Ain slowly begins to regain consciousness on the floor. The hero greets him, saying he is relieved he's awake, and asks how he's feeling. Ain immediately remembers the mortal danger and shouts in panic, desperately calling for Carisha. He looks to the side and sees the cleric resting peacefully against the stone column. The hero informs him that she is fine and just sleeping, as all her injuries have been healed. He lies naturally, informing with false regret that Alexis ended up falling into a trap. Ain observes the huge trail of red on the floor, shocked to realize the traitorous leader is gone. The hero makes up a story that the blonde man tried to steal the chest and flee alone, making the young thief understand. Ain praises the hero with admiration for having defeated that boss with just one attack. The protagonist scratches his head, feigning shyness, saying he just threw a magic item and got lucky. The young thief looks at him with a sweat drop on his face, finding the justification too bizarre. He comments that the young man is very lucky and a natural adventurer, and the hero thanks him with a smile. At that moment, the young cleric Carisha begins to stir, yawning as she wakes up. Ain hugs her in relief, celebrating her awakening, while the protagonist watches the scene, satisfied. The hero gives a friendly smirk, suggesting they all start heading back. After delivering the official mission report to the guild, the three go their separate ways. The hero watches the young couple waving from a distance, remembering they were secretly dating. He recalls that the blonde leader used blackmail to force the cleric and stole the money. But now, with the blackmailer gone, the protagonist just wishes the young couple can be happy. The hero walks peacefully through the beautiful city square, knowing he has completed another stage of his revenge. Back at the Dark Guild's headquarters, the receptionist congratulates the protagonist on his excellent work. The girl smiles very excitedly, commenting that she expected such absurd speed from a warrior. She hands over the documents confirming he is now rank C, and the hero immediately asks about the contract. The receptionist informs him that the new task given to him will be to escort the powerful Noise Hameln. The hero goes on high alert upon discovering that Noise's mission is related to the relics. He realizes that the mystery of his mythical items has surfaced again, despite being a military secret. Riot seriously deduces that someone of high rank is leaking data and speeds up his hunt. He knows very well that he needs to recover all his mythical weapons before the villain uses them. The scene changes to the luxurious meeting room of the Fire Dragon clan, where holographic figures are talking. A bearded man with glasses complains angrily, calling the late Alexis useless for failing. A holographic woman laughs, commenting that at least the blonde man understood why he was kicked out. Another member asks about the mythical item, and the bearded man replies that the treasure was fake. One of the holographic officials states seriously that even with the failure, they cannot delay. The evil plan consists of plunging the entire world back into absolute chaos for the clan's power. The warrior standing before the table bows, asking if the decision is acceptable. The vice captain named Tyrio smiles cynically, claiming the choice follows the star's orders. The scene cuts to the entrance of the hidden tourist dungeon, where the powerful Noise Hameln awaits. Noise Hameln turns with a seductive smile to greet the hero, commenting that he is late. She ironically calls him her most promising rookie as the protagonist emerges from the portal. The protagonist looks at her seriously, recalling that she holds the second position of rank S. He knows very well that the woman in front of him is the dangerous and feared operative, Noise Hameln. The hero complains about the meeting location and the absurd 1-hour deadline to reach the dungeon. Noise retorts with a sarcastic smile, claiming that if he were serious, he would have arrived quickly. The protagonist looks at her coldly, wanting to know the real reason she thinks that way. The villain lifts a small, glowing blue magic crystal fragment, preparing for a revelation. She throws the magic crystal behind her, stating that all this doubt is about to be cleared up. The blue magical artifact forcefully collides with the dungeon's glaciers, releasing energy. A strong explosion of energy and shattered ice pieces occurs, shaking the chamber. From the middle of the cold fog, the giant ice dungeon boss emerges, roaring with fury. The terrible ice monster unleashes a devastating attack, bringing its fist down on the protagonist. The brutal blow smashes the ground, creating a huge cloud of smoke and shattering ice rocks. The hero uses his sacred aegis to contain the charge and admits that each of the giant's punches is heavy. He knows his doll body won't take damage, but reflects that defeating the beast will be difficult. The giant continues to deliver a sequence of heavy and destructive attacks against the magic barrier. The hero dodges with agile leaps and asks the villain if the dungeon hides a relic. Noise confesses with mockery and cynicism that the story was a lie just to lure the hero. The protagonist is slightly surprised by the answer, revealing that he was deceived by his contractor. The dungeon boss takes advantage of the distraction to deliver another final blow to the warrior. The hero lands on the ground and questions her seriously, wanting to know how much she knows about him. The villain looks at him up close with a mysterious smile, confirming that she knows the power of the items. The hero coldly asks if the situation in the ice dungeon was a test to measure his strength. Noise smiles and points to the giant monster, warning him that he will end up gone if he gets distracted. The colossal ice golem raises its stalactite-covered arm again, preparing its strike. But the protagonist leaps at high speed, channeling an immense reddish aura into his hands. He summons the dreaded Scarlet Whip of Lament while the villain watches the combat attentively. The whip's red energy threads close around the monster's horn, immobilizing it. Then, he uses another of his magical creations, manifesting the legendary Excalibur in the air. With a single divine and devastating slash, the hero severs the head of the colossal ice monster. The giant's frozen body crumbles and disintegrates as the young man lands elegantly. Noise analyzes him, astonished, commenting that she thought she could measure the warrior's power. She realizes with surprise that the young man fought effortlessly and still has hidden power. The beautiful villain walks slowly towards him, the sound of her high heels echoing in the chamber. She maliciously comments that the young man resembles a demon pretending to be a common human. The hero retorts, amused by the peculiar accusation, but Noise insists on her hunch with conviction. The villain looks him in the eyes and directly states that she is absolutely certain he is not human. She raises her hand, channeling her dark aura, and once again manifests her feared serpent. The viper's scaly head stops just millimeters from the protagonist's face, who remains motionless. The serpent threatens to deliver a lethal bite to his forehead, but the hero maintains his cold posture. Noise smiles victoriously, stating that the lack of reaction to a surprise attack would be impossible. He just pets the snake's head, calmly replying that he was just surprised by the agility. She insists that any warrior would try to dodge when caught by surprise, and that not blinking is bizarre. The protagonist just ignores her suspicions and prepares to divert the subject from his identity. She says she followed his steps and ended up at a famous shop that was destroyed. The villain reveals that she found out about the old merchant, who lived there alone with his grandson. She says that upon analyzing the bodies of the tragedy's victims, she noticed something important. Noise reveals with a triumphant smile that she discovered the old merchant was the legendary creator. The scene ends mysteriously, leaving the definitive revelation of the hero's biggest secret in the air. A fierce monster suddenly lunges at the hero and the villain, delivering an attack with its weapon. Noise coldly warns her opponent that she is in the middle of a conversation and demands he not dare interrupt her. The tail of her enormous purple serpent appears in the air and smashes the opponent against the rocky ground. The hero stares at the villain with complete seriousness, asking what that old story has to do with anything. She reveals her intriguing hypothesis, questioning if he might be the legendary creator of items. Noise smirks and utters the legendary name of Riot Burger, staring into the hero's eyes. She recalls the legend of the young genius capable of rivaling rank S and who had insane skills. The protagonist listens to her deductions in silence, realizing that the theory explains everything. The villain questions if that legendary warrior, who was supposed to be gone, ended up returning. She smiles maliciously, saying she can't help but think that's the real case. Noise looks at him provocatively and asks with a mysterious gaze for him to reveal the truth. She directly asks where he really came from, and the hero just watches her without reaction. Riot closes his eyes thoughtfully upon hearing the question about his true origin and his past. He recalls visions of his previous life, marked by violent battles and a smiling child. Dark memories of betrayal and a terrible, violent end flash through his mind. The protagonist opens his eyes, focusing back on the present, and prepares to answer her. Riot moves his hand, releasing invisible threads, and coldly warns that he cannot answer the question. The giant armored monster is suddenly cornered and immobilized by the magic ropes. The beast desperately tries to break free, but the cutting threads tighten with more force. Riot raises his arm, channeling his energy to activate his ability to create magic items. A colossal, glowing hammer appears in the air, enveloped in green lightning, revealing the mystical weapon Mjolnir. The giant monster roars in terror upon seeing the immense and destructive magic weapon floating in front of it. The protagonist looks at it with absolute seriousness as he prepares the command to attack. The legendary hammer Mjolnir descends with a violent impact, generating an explosion of green lightning. Riot warns with a dark smile that if necessary, he will have to deal with her in the same way. The hero walks imposingly through the dust, coldly warning that she must either cooperate or be taken out. He points his sharp sword directly at the villain's neck, telling her to be quiet. The protagonist assures with a penetrating gaze that if she cooperates, she will not be treated poorly. The girl laughs and pushes the blade away, saying threats don't work, because he would have already taken her out. Noise smiles victoriously, stating that he needs her help to get to rank S. The hero corrects her, saying that what he really seeks is precise information. She flashes a wide smile and agrees, showing great interest in listening to the young man. He reveals with a serious look that he wants to know the whole truth about the culprit who took him out. Riot remembers the mysterious mastermind known as the Client, who had the strength of a rank S. Noise is intrigued and repeats with surprise the information about the individual having a scar. The hero asks if she knows anything, but the villain dodges, saying she doesn't reveal things for free. The protagonist grits his teeth, annoyed, realizing she is refusing to cooperate. She smiles maliciously, assuring him that she will cooperate but demands that the servant relationship be clear. Noise gets close and touches his chest, warning that he will have to follow all her orders. The young man sighs, annoyed, thinking about how troublesome it will be to deal with this woman. She whispers that there is no choice, as it would be a waste to let such power slip away. The villain says she will use his strength for her objectives, and that their interests are aligned. The protagonist accepts the proposal, but seriously demands that she fulfill her part of the deal. She agrees with a smile and suggests they return immediately to the Adventurers Guild. As they walk out, Noise reflects silently, confirming her certainty that he is Riot. With a dark and focused look, she begins to plot her next steps with this discovery. The villain flashes an evil smile, thinking she needs to find a way to use that warrior. The hero observes a luxurious, decorated door and asks, confused, where they have just arrived. She presents her immense office, explaining that rank S adventurers receive private rooms. Riot understands the explanation and directly asks what their next step will be. Noise asks the young man to be calm and opens a folder of reports, saying she has information for him. She shows a document with a list of investigated members of the clan's Veterans Association. Riot analyzes the report, remembering that this clan provided the data on his mythical relics. The villain explains that the Veterans Association serves to provide support but hides secrets. The hero is surprised when Noise reveals that the group managed to get their hands on a mythical item. She says an investigation mission has been opened, and the young man immediately asks who requested it. The royal army that the protagonist was a part of was the one who lost the relic, and is now searching for it. Riot asks which item was stolen, but Noise says that information was not revealed. She confirms that she wants him to investigate the group and guarantees the case will get him to rank B. Noise winks maliciously, asking if that deal doesn't seem perfect and advantageous for both of them. The young man agrees but coldly points out that reaching only rank B is still not enough. The warrior leaves the place, demanding that she prepare a rank S mission for when he returns. He walks down the corridor, thinking that tracking the mythical items is the best way to find his target. Riot clenches his fist in fury, determined to get his revenge and prevent his weapons from being used. He knows very well that to achieve his great objective, he cannot stop in a place like this. The scene cuts to the bustling and noisy official headquarters of the powerful Fire Dragon clan. A wooden mug is slammed hard on the table as someone shouts that they fell into a trap. The sub-leader Hyana fumes furiously, complaining that the dungeon, which was rank B, was actually S. A bearded warrior laughs at her outburst, trying to calm his companion's temper. The rank A adventurer named Rex asks with a relaxed smile for the young woman to calm down. He thanks her for defeating the boss, saving everyone, and making a profit from materials. Hayana complains, saying he is too relaxed, as she grabs a piece of bread from the table to eat. Dino says with his mouth full that it was because of this careless attitude that he was kicked out of a rank S group. Rex roars angrily, telling the young man to shut up, and states that he left the group on his own to help. The warrior sighs, saying that if she had known about his drinking habits, she never would have accepted. She slams the table hard, interrupting her companion's silly argument to talk about something serious. Hayana grabs her colleague by the collar, stating that the old men in the association want to get rid of them. She says the portal's rank mistake was intentional to make them perish in an accident. Dino comments that he heard rumors about a mysterious and very suspicious man frequenting the headquarters. The red-haired warrior's gaze becomes extremely sharp and tense with the revelation. She clenches her fist, stating with determination that if they want to take them out, they should just attack. Rex holds her hand, asking her to calm down, and considers that the violent attitude is too extreme. Dino says that since they are not rank S, the only alternative is to get more allies. Hayana and Rex look at their companion with intrigue, who confirms the need to seek new strength. The young man describes that they need someone with a flexible mind and a strong sense of justice. He continues describing the perfect requirements as a mysterious person opens the door. Dino adds that this ally must be someone stronger than any rank S hero. Hayana questions with disillusionment if such a formidable warrior truly exists. As they talk, a bully approaches the protagonist who is passing by. The red-haired warrior thinks that maybe they should train someone strong to be the ideal ally. The bully lets out a laugh, mocking the idea, and says that the only ones who would follow her would be weirdos. Hayana gets annoyed, telling them to stop the ridiculous game and focus on a useful idea. Suddenly, a violent crash occurs as the bully is thrown far away, destroying tables. The protagonist adjusts his gloves, sighing with boredom, and complains that hazing rookies happens everywhere. The companions look back, surprised, commenting that the newcomer is definitely hot-headed. The redhead stares at the young man in complete silence, trying to understand what just happened there. Hayana's eye widens in pure astonishment as her mind tries to process the speed of the blow. She reflects that she was keeping an eye on the young man, because he was a new face but couldn't notice the attack. The warrior concludes, frightened, that she was completely unable to react before seeing the guys fly. She realizes that he hit the vital points with precision, controlling his strength to not be lethal. Hayana flashes an excited smile, absolutely certain that this mysterious young man is rank S. Rex calls her, confused, as she runs, thinking that any ordinary person would have missed it. The other henchmen start to get up, annoyed, and shout, telling the protagonist not to mess around. One of them furiously questions where he thinks he is, while the hero just looks at him with boredom. Before the fight continues, Hayana suddenly appears in front of the hero, shouting to get his attention. The redhead points directly at the young man's chest, asking if he is interested in joining. The hero just observes her in silence with a calm expression while waiting for her to finish her proposal. Hayana flashes a beautiful smile and makes the final invitation, suggesting the young man join her group. Hayana gives a big smile and invites Ray to join her group of adventurers. Ray is surprised by the invitation as Dino explains that they are looking for someone strong like him. One of the henchmen complains about the decision, but Hayana tells him to shut it right then and there. The redhead turns back to the young man and asks what he thinks of her proposal. He turns down the invitation with a smile, saying he doesn't plan on joining a permanent group right now. Ray silently reflects that he needs to act alone to disappear without any problems after the mission. Hayana regrets his refusal and asks if he really prefers to work solo. She extends a friendly hand, telling him to look for her if he ever needs anything. The redhead finally introduces herself as Hayana, the sub-leader of that adventurer clan. He shakes her hand, introducing himself as Ray, and promises to count on her if he ever needs to. The story goes that the Fire Dragon clan was founded by Melzenhilt and Pilsner Hojak. These legendary heroes became famous in the past by defeating the terrible dragon Zaraxiel. Among all the members, the one who stood out the most was Dunkel Slain, the Dragon Slayer. A luxurious carriage arrives, bringing a very important guest to the meeting. The veteran Dunkel Slain appears with an imposing posture and a very serious, focused gaze. Meanwhile, the protagonist watches all the movement from above, very discreetly. He remembers that Dunkel is the uncle of Alex's slain, the noble he recently took out. Ray recalls that the records showed Dunkel controlled all the noble's money. The hero deduces that it was probably the old man who told Alexis about the mythical items. Ray starts following the old man's carriage, stealthily jumping across the city's rooftops. He reflects that the veteran's public activities make his investigation much easier. The carriage finally stops in front of a very busy establishment in the city at night. Dunkel gets out of the carriage and is greeted with reverence by an employee of the place. The hero lands on the neighboring roof, carefully watching every step of his target down below. Ray analyzes the establishment and immediately realizes what kind of place it is. The place is actually an underground casino with a luxurious area reserved for VIPs. Inside, a noble celebrates, saying that the plan and the capture of the mythical item were a success. The hooded man praises the veteran Dunkel for the brilliant execution of his plans. The mysterious hooded man smiles sinisterly, knowing that everything is going according to plan. Ray uses his magic spider to listen to the conversation and wonders if the hooded man is the leader. The man laments that peace in the world has drastically reduced profits from dungeons. Dunkel finds the terrible idea of trying to resurrect that creature to be completely insane. The hooded man retorts maliciously, stating that the greater the chaos, the better for them. The veteran remains impressed with the audacity of the plan, although he still has reservations. From the rooftop, the hero listens intently to every detail of that dark conversation. The conspirators reveal that the creature to be revived is the legendary dragon Xeraxiel. If the monster is revived, its immense power will awaken hordes of monsters throughout the region. Dunkel delights in imagining the immense amount of gold and glory they will receive. The villain guarantees that the Fire Dragon clan will enter a new and prosperous golden age. Ray listens to the villain's delusions, feeling a great sense of disgust at their selfish plan. The hero reflects on the dragon Xeraxiel and realizes the magnitude of the approaching danger. Ray remembers that he himself sealed the dragon in the past using his powerful mythical weapons. The artifacts used in the sealing were two magic gourds of immense mystical power. If the relic's effects are reversed, the capital will be completely destroyed. The hero firmly decides that he must prevent this catastrophe at all costs. Ray hears the hooded man mention a third person involved in the evil plan. The villain guarantees he has total control of the situation, but quickly changes the subject in the room. The hooded man warns that he is sensing a strange presence snooping on their conversation. He suspects that the detected presence is too subtle to belong to a human being. Ray's sound spider is suddenly cut in half, cutting off the audio feed. The pieces of the destroyed magic spider fall silently to the room's floor. The hooded man analyzes the fragments, realizing it was a magical spy spider. Ray watches from a distance, maintaining a completely serious and focused expression on everything. The hero recognizes that the enemy is sharp for noticing an item that emits almost no mana. He regrets that he can no longer use the device to uncover the villain's entire plan. With no other choice, the protagonist decides he will have to infiltrate the place himself. Meanwhile, the main hall of the underground casino remains packed with customers. Ray walks disguised through the hall, thinking about how they plan to control the dragon. Suddenly, a crucial memory surfaces in the hero's mind, changing his expression instantly. He remembers a mystical relic from the past capable of manipulating everyone's memories. Ray deduces that the mentioned accomplice must be the true wielder of this artifact. The hero begins to suspect the identity of the mysterious person behind all of this. He hears a sudden noise and quickly turns to the side, on high alert. Ray grabs the arm of a waitress in a bunny outfit, who immediately cries out in pain. The young man's eyes widen as he realizes who the person he just captured is. Hyana is shocked to recognize the young rookie and asks what he's doing there. Ray says that's his line and questions her about being dressed that way. The redhead becomes extremely embarrassed at being caught in that provocative outfit. The young man asks if she works there, and Hyana tries to justify herself, all flustered. She begs him to keep it a secret, claiming she has important personal reasons. Hyana thinks she can't reveal to a rookie that she's investigating the veterans. The hero just murmurs that he understands while calmly analyzing the situation. Ray concludes that they both share the same goal of stopping the clan's veterans. With a quick movement, the hero corners her against the wall, surprising the young woman. He whispers very closely, asking if the invitation to the group is still open. Hyana questions if he's referring to the group, and the young man confirms with complete seriousness. He states that she dressed like that to get information about the secret room. Ray proposes to tell her Dunkel's secret plan if she agrees to cooperate with him now. The redhead is very intrigued and wants to know how he found out about this meeting. She decides to accept the deal anyway to obtain evidence against the veteran. Hyana warns that she still doesn't fully trust him but knows he's not a villain. She gives a confident smile, remembering that she's the leader of the clan for a good reason. The young man smirks, mentally grateful for not needing to give any more explanations. Ray asks her to cause a commotion in the hall to force the villains out of the room. The redhead gives a mischievous smile, assuring him she has the perfect trick for the occasion. Ray watches curiously as she pulls a mysterious device from her outfit. She shows a radio communicator, and the hero recognizes the technological device from a distance. Quick, firm footsteps suddenly begin to echo through the corridors of the place. Armed soldiers invade the casino, shouting orders for no one to dare move. The gamblers panic upon seeing the surprise raid by the royal army. The army commander announces that everyone in the place will be taken in for questioning. He orders everyone to stay where they are, and warns that suspects will be dealt with on the spot. Ray admits he didn't expect her to involve the royal armed forces in the plan. Hyana whispers that the building has been surrounded, and that the villains will have no way to escape. Ray warns that criminals of this level always have well-prepared escape routes. As predicted, the two villains are already fleeing through the dark sewer tunnels. The hooded man complains angrily, saying the veteran is getting too sloppy. Dunkel fumes furiously, swearing he paid generous bribes to avoid the raid. The hooded man suggests they split up along the way to reduce the risk of capture. As he flees, he reflects suspiciously that the timing of that police raid was too convenient. The hooded man climbs a ladder, concluding that the earlier eavesdropping was not the army's work. He emerges into a dark city alley, discreetly opening a wooden door to escape. The villain fears that the plan's secret information has been leaked to a third party. The criminal knows he can't waste time and rushes to move the plan forward quickly. Suddenly, a small magic flame appears flying behind him and hits his shoulder by surprise. His eyes widen in shock as he realizes he was hit by a fire spell out of nowhere. The villain dodges a flaming torch thrown at him, sensing a lurking presence. Ray emerges from the shadows, delivering an extremely fast physical blow against his opponent. The protagonist lands gracefully on the stone ground as smoke begins to spread. Ray lands a devastating downward kick that forces the enemy back with great force. The hooded man grinds his teeth, feeling the violent impact of the hero's surprise attack. The villain slides across the alley's stone floor, trying to regain his balance after the blow. The hero calmly walks towards his opponent, his steps firm and determined. The enemy gets up, surprised to notice that a simple army scout has so much physical strength. He faces the protagonist, stating that he is no ordinary soldier and demands to know what he wants. Ray says he just wants to ask a few questions about the secret meeting he had with Dunkel. The villain smiles, realizing that this mysterious young man was the person who was snooping on everything. He pulls out his glowing dagger and mockingly warns that he has no obligation to answer. The opponent charges at high speed towards the hero, starting a direct combat right then and there. The enemy suddenly activates one of his special advanced and very strong combat techniques. He uses the shadow dive ability, making the protagonist look at the ground in surprise. The villain resurfaces by surprise directly from Ray's shadow, preparing a strike with his blade. Ray senses the attack coming from behind and prepares to counter, attack in a fraction of a second. The hero reacts instantly, blocking the final charge with a precise blow of red light. The villain is in complete shock to see his weapon trapped by reddish magic chains. Ray compliments his opponent's rare technique, but reveals that he was expecting something of this level. The hooded man retreats back into the darkness, praising the protagonist's quick reaction. The opponent decides to increase the intensity of the combat by summoning several magic daggers in the air. The floating weapons surround Ray from all sides, ready to fire simultaneously. With agile and precise movements, the hero dodges and deflects all the projectiles without any difficulty. The enemy despairs upon seeing his strongest charge being repelled with such ease. He realizes Ray is using the whip at high speed just to mock his attacks. The villain grits his teeth, noticing that simple tricks won't work against this adversary. He analyzes the young man, concluding that he is very accustomed to completely subduing his enemies. The villain flashes a sinister smile, realizing he will need to use his true trump card to win. He lets out a macabre laugh, admitting it's been a long time since he fought with his full strength. The opponent summons a gleaming sword surrounded by a dense smoke of dark energy. Ray watches seriously, finally understanding his opponent's true style. The opponent advances with firm and quick steps, preparing the decisive blow with his new blade. The villain attacks fiercely, shouting that the hero will never leave that dark and dirty alley alive. The protagonist's gaze shines intensely as he focuses all his attention on the charge. Ray manages to dodge by millimeters the devastating slash that tears through the air around him. The hero realizes that the range and strength of the enemy's blow are much greater than they seem. The two begin to exchange swift attacks, generating several bright sparks across the scene. The villain shouts insanely with excitement, saying that the real battle is just beginning. Ray notices that the enemy wields heavy swords, demonstrating an extraordinary physical vigor. He considers tiring out his adversary, but decides he needs to end the combat as quickly as possible. Ray summons his mystical ability of iron stakes to create extremely sharp threads in the air. The villain suddenly finds himself trapped by the mana lines and curses the protagonist with great anger. Ray pulls the strings, knowing that his opponent must understand the mortal danger of those lines. Ray realizes that the villain's next move will be to dive into the shadows to close the distance. As he tries to resurface from the shadows, the enemy is suddenly intercepted by Ray's sharp lines. The villain panics upon noticing that the hero predicted his movements and placed threads behind him as well. Ray gives a mocking smile, saying he fell into the trap by trusting his abilities too much. The hooded man struggles angrily, stating that the combat is not over yet and that he has one last card. He pulls out a mystical golden bell and madly warns that he will turn the hero into his obedient puppet. Ray's gaze becomes completely vacant and paralyzed upon hearing the sound emitted by the strange bell. The hero immediately recognizes that mystical vibration of the bell from his past memories. He remembers that this object is the mind manipulation artifact used to betray him previously. The villain becomes confused and angry upon hearing the protagonist start to laugh at the spell. Ray smiles, saying he has finally found what he was looking for after investigating so many rumors in the kingdom. The hero's gaze fills with fury as he realizes he has finally found a trail of the client. He celebrates having followed the tracks of the stolen magic relics to reach this crucial point. With fury in his eyes, the protagonist celebrates being so close to reaching the mastermind of his end. The opponent tries to maintain his bravado and questions if the young man really believes he has already won this fight. He shakes the golden bell again, mockingly warning that the hero's arrogance will be his downfall. A strong wave of magical energy spreads through the air, trying to dominate the protagonist's mind. The villain orders with an insane smile for the hero to reveal his true intentions there. The hero just gives a mocking smile and calmly reveals that the spell had no effect. The opponent is completely shocked and horrified, unable to understand how that is possible. Ray reveals with absolute pride that the spell failed, because he himself was the creator of that mystical bell. A flashback shows the hero in his friend Rit's laboratory, planning his next steps. The alchemist with glasses hands over extremely rare materials for the hero to create new tools. The protagonist accepts with a smile and begins to design a special device against mana interference. The new shining artifact was custom, made to completely nullify the power of mind control. The innovative tool emits a counter, magic frequency capable of neutralizing wave manipulation. The villain is incredulous to see that a mythic level item was completely useless against the hero. The opponent takes a step back, admitting with fear that the young man's strength surpassed all expectations. Suddenly, the villain dives back into the ground's shadows, leaving the protagonist on alert. Ray realizes that the enemy can disappear into the shadows with just a physical touch in the darkness. The voice echoes through the alley, saying that the hero has truly picked the opponent's interest. The villain resurfaces with a sinister smile in the darkness, proposing they get more creative. He delivers a devastating sword blow that destroys the wall of a nearby residential house. An innocent resident falls out of bed, terrified, amidst the rubble of the crumbling wall. Ray is shocked to see a defenseless civilian in the area, and realizes the enemy's terrible intention. The villain smiles sadistically with the golden bell in his hand, ready to begin his puppet show. Several innocent civilians emerge from the shadows with glowing red eyes under mind control. The opponent cruelly orders his new soldiers to attack and immobilize the protagonist. The protagonist tries to retreat and dodge the attacks without harming any of the innocent people. He dodges with mastery, mentally complaining about how villains love to involve innocents in fights. The hooded man taunts the hero, asking if he feels bad about this situation. He maliciously questions if the hero hates seeing other people get hurt because of his actions. The villain takes advantage of the young man's hesitation and advances quickly while he focuses on the civilians. He delivers a powerful slash from behind, warning that the hero's compassion will be his downfall. Ray realizes that if he dodges the attack, the sword will hit the defenseless resident right behind him. Unable to dodge, the hero decides to use his own body to block the brutal sword blow. The blade hits the protagonist's arm, generating a strong metallic impact amidst the scene. The violent collision releases an immense wave of magical energy that kicks up all the dust in the air. The villain is intrigued to realize that his blade didn't cut any flesh despite the direct hit. The hero mockingly cleans himself off and thinks silently that his artificial body is much more resilient than a normal one. The villain finds the hero's resistance fascinating and wants to see how much he can take. Then, the controlled civilians charge forward again towards the protagonist with everything they've got. Ray says that he loves using human shields but warns that he will no longer tolerate this cowardice. The hero summons the perfume of silence, releasing a magic smoke that puts everyone to sleep. The civilians fall asleep on the ground, leaving the villain in complete despair at his loss of control. Ray appears by surprise in front of him, delivering a quick attack that makes him spit red in pain. With extreme agility, the hero uses his mana lines to rip the golden bell from his hand. The opponent is completely immobilized by the protagonist's sharp strings and lets out a groan of pain. The hero holds the mystical relic in his hands, declaring with total coldness that the show is over. The villain trembles in terror as the hero warns that it's now his turn to ask the questions. The protagonist demands with a threatening gaze that he tell him everything about his true master. Ray wants to know the reason for the theft of the relics, while the villain roars in fury and despair. Completely cornered and wounded, the opponent lowers his head, admitting defeat in the combat. He reveals with a macabre smile that his group's main goal is to bring anarchy and chaos. The villain confesses that they plan to use the mythical weapons to start a war across the entire continent. Ray is surprised to learn about the war, as he thought the plan was just to resurrect the dragon. The villain reveals that they used the money to manipulate the Fire Dragon clan as a perfect front. The hero questions if they were the ones who stole the artifact under the royal army's custody. The opponent smiles with a psychotic look, confirming the protagonist's suspicions without hesitation. He reveals that the legendary mystical gourd that absorbs mana has already been properly stolen by them. The blue mystical artifact has already been placed directly at the dragon's ceiling location. He warns that the resurrection is about to begin at any moment, leaving the protagonist surprised. Ray recalls that he used 2 mystical gourds to neutralize the monster's physical and magical power. He thinks that if they break just one of the seals, the dragon will awaken in an incomplete and insane state. The villain confirms with malice that the incomplete dragon will go on a rampage, destroying everything in a blind fury. Ray is furious at the evil, but the villain laughs, saying he does everything for the glory of his master. The hooded man fanatically states that he doesn't care if the capital is completely destroyed. The villain laughs hysterically while the protagonist looks at him with total disdain for his madness. Suddenly, the darkness of the night is cut by a colossal roar coming from a distance. While fleeing in the middle of the alley, Dunkel stops in fear, realizing that something terrible is happening. Hyona suddenly appears in front of him, blocking the path with a very serious expression. The redhead points her blade and orders the traitor to surrender and come with her without causing trouble. Dunkel lets out a disdainful laugh, calling the warrior a knave rookie who doesn't understand anything. The old man mockingly says that his greedy actions are only for the glory of the entire group. He flashes a sadistic smile and orders menacingly for her not to dare get in his way. The old man closes his armored fist, channeling an immense amount of energy for combat. Suddenly, a colossal explosion of flames destroys the ground in the background, startling the young woman. The redhead realizes that this destructive magical energy is not a simple detonation spell. An immense dragon's paw emerges, crushing the ground and spreading smoke and destruction across the area. The terrible fire dragon roars in fury amidst the flames, ready to turn the capital into ashes. The colossal monster opens its maw of sharp teeth, preparing a devastating breath of flames. Hyona falls into complete despair upon seeing the gigantic beast, while the old man laughs out loud, Suddenly, a spell of immense magical power collides forcefully directly against the dragon. Both the old man and the warrior are paralyzed in shock upon seeing that unexpected interference. Rei appears imposingly, wielding the mystical meteor buster cannon with its brilliant energy. The hero tells the hooded villain that his interrogation about the plan's secrets can wait a bit. The protagonist prepares with a determined look, stating that first, they are going to hunt a dragon. The colossal monster roars with all its destructive fury, spreading fire through the city's houses. From a rooftop, the hero faces the colossal fire beast, ready to begin the final confrontation. With total determination and courage, the young warrior prepares to save the capital from destruction. A large mass of flaming energy churns violently as it tries to merge in the air. The monster, in its incomplete state, can barely maintain its form and releases an absurd amount of power. Hyona runs desperately to Rei, who immediately asks what happened to the traitor Dunkel. She says she gave the old man a good thrashing and tied him up tight, making sure he won't be waking up. The redhead is impressed by the previous attack and asks if he was the one who used that power. Rei explains that he used a condensed mana bullet in an attempt to take off the monster's head, but the attack ended up failing because something strange protected the gigantic dragon at the last second. The hero realizes that all that leaking magical energy is acting as a protective barrier. Hyona is shocked, having never heard of this, while Rei warns that the beast is about to attack again. The colossal monster begins to accumulate an overwhelming amount of flames directly in its maw. A gigantic and destructive beam of fire is fired from the sky towards the city's ground. The terrible explosion hits the capital's streets, causing unbelievable destruction on all sides. Rei manages to protect Hyona from the devastating shockwave by using his own body as a shield. The redhead looks horrified at the destruction caused by the beast and can hardly believe what her eyes are seeing. A single breath from the monster created a colossal crater in the ground and split the entire city in half. Rei holds his companion firmly and warns her that she can't be paralyzed right there in the middle of danger. The two quickly jump away as the surrounding terrain begins to completely crumble. The young man lands with agility in a safe place and orders her to maintain full focus on the battle. He warns that any slip-up in this confrontation will be final, and Hyona just grumbles as she recovers. As people run in desperation, the dragon roars threateningly, spreading panic everywhere. The dragon's terrible breath directly hits the civilians who were frantically trying to escape that nightmare. From a balcony, a mysterious man with gray hair silently observes all that destruction. He maintains a completely cold and expressionless posture in the face of the chaos consuming the city. Debris continues to fly through the air as the residents' desperate screams echo throughout the region. Hyona observes the burning city and deeply laments seeing her home being consumed by criminal fire. She asks where the kingdom's knights are, and Rei calmly replies that an army takes time to act. The young man seriously concludes that they will have to resolve this terrible threat on their own. The redhead's eyes widen, unable to believe they will have to face a giant monster with just the two of them. He explains that the traitors were just pawns, and that they can't trust anyone in the kingdom for reinforcements. With a slight smile, the young man says that the only person he can fully trust at that moment is her. The declaration of trust leaves the warrior completely speechless, and with a racing heart. Nearby, several people run desperately through the alleys, trying to find a safe shelter. A mother holds her small child in her arms as the immense fire monster appears right behind them, ready to attack. She cries in terror, desperately pleading for someone to appear and save them from certain doom. At the very last millisecond, Hyona appears, jumping with her sword in hand to place herself in front of the family. The warrior delivers a powerful blow to the ground, channeling her combat energy to create a protective barrier. She yells for her power to flame with all its intensity to release her secret defense technique. An imposing golden shield materializes in the air, completely blocking the advance of the dragon's flames. The redhead orders the mother and boy to flee immediately, while she can still hold back the danger. Rei walks silently from behind the smoke, closely observing the courage of his new combat ally. She admits there is no other choice and mentally prepares herself to face this impossible battle. With a wild smile, she wields her blade and declares that it's time to hunt that cursed dragon. She asks what the plan is, since normal attacks won't work, and Rei responds with great confidence. The young man reminds her that she is the true expert in taking down dragons, and she agrees, a bit awkwardly. The warrior explains that the correct approach would be to cut off the wings and tail first to remove all the beast's mobility. The problem is that with that magical barrier covering the dragon's body, none of these common tactics will work. Ray gives a mysterious half-smile and states that they will use the monster's own protective barrier against it. He uses his creation of magic tools to design a ring capable of expanding her total mana capacity. Ray places the ring on her, explaining that the item works as an enhancer to raise her power to its limit. The young man then asks her to act as bait, distracting the giant dragon until his final plan is ready. Hyana bravely charges towards the fire dragon to fulfill her role as bait in the battle. She activates her special sword ability, channeling all the energy from the new magic ring she received. The warrior unleashes the dance of flames, creating a brilliant whirlwind of fire and energy around the monster. Hyana is amazed to notice that her power is on another level, and that her mana is barely being spent. She praises the magic tool, but knows she can't fight forever without the city being completely destroyed. Suddenly, the dragon opens its glowing maw and prepares to fire a breath attack at point-blank range at the warrior. With no time to dodge the terrible attack, the redhead panics, fearing the worst is yet to come. At that exact moment, a mysterious steel cable quickly wraps around a stone beam in the scene. The monster's fire blast is deflected into the sky, causing an immense explosion in the clouds above them. The fire dragon itself widens its eyes in surprise as it feels it's losing control of its body. From above, the hero uses his incredible physical strength to pull the chains and destabilize the beast's balance. Hyana watches in surprise as the imposing warrior manipulates the situation and moves the giant dragon with his own hands. She remembers Ray saying he would use the barrier against the dragon and wonders what he's really planning. The redhead still tries to understand how he intends to move a colossal creature of that size with brute force. Ray had silently revealed that he intended to blow up the entire monster along with its powerful protective barrier. He remembers that physical blows don't cause damage but states he has discovered a crucial secret about the barrier. The young man realized that the dragon's mana shield cannot completely absorb the kinetic impact of attacks. The warrior admits that it makes perfect sense, but still worries a lot about the creature's colossal size. She remains intrigued, trying to decipher the practical way he intends to perform this impossible feat. Back in the present, the furious dragon roars again, accumulating spheres of bright flames in its mouth. Ray leaps nimbly amidst the fire blasts, crossing the battlefield with extreme precision and speed. With total coldness and tranquility, the hero states that his plan is actually extremely simple to execute. He compares the beast to a bird in a cage, and says that if the bird doesn't want to leave on its own. The young man descends from the sky, delivering a devastating kick that pushes the entire cage with the monster trapped inside. The immense fire dragon is thrown backwards, colliding violently with several city buildings. Ray runs swiftly, saying triumphantly that all he needed to do was simply move the cage. With a cry of fury, the hero channels all his magical power, concentrating it in his arm for the final attack. He delivers a colossal energy punch directly against the protective shield, generating an immense roar of power. The brutal impact launches the gigantic creature into the air towards the sky, completely removing the threat from the ground. The colossal dragon is thrown so high that it ends up disappearing completely into the dark night clouds. On the ground, Hyana watches everything in complete silence, unable to believe he actually isolated the monster. As he falls back, the protagonist prepares to use his alchemy and magic crafting skills. He activates his special ability to create magic tools to prepare his most powerful trump card. In the middle of the night sky, a colossal flying fortress begins to materialize before his glowing eyes. The mythical floating fortress reflects the image of the terrible fire dragon, which is finally called Zarexiel. From the top of the structure, Ray faces the gigantic beast and warns that this will be the stage for their final confrontation. The hero uses the mythical item Riot Burger to charge his magic doll body with its full potential. He focuses on his current body, which has 10 times more mana than he had in his prime in the kingdom's past. The hero begins to concentrate all the energy into a single point, saying that not even an evil dragon will withstand it. Suddenly, electrical sparks of mana begin to tear through the young man's clothes, due to the immense amount of energy. He looks indifferently at his completely scorched arm and notices that the mana circuits have burned out. The magical circuits function like blood vessels in the body, distributing energy throughout the structure. The sudden and massive increase in mana caused by the circular ring was greater than his channels could handle. A human brain has natural limiters, but that magic doll body has no locks to contain so much mana. Ray mentally concludes that there are definitely still many points to be improved in his body's design. The imposing floating fortress shines high in the night sky as the decisive battle is about to begin. Back on the ground, Hyuna stares dumbfounded at that gigantic structure and wonders who the young man really is. The hero surprisingly appears, walking up behind her, and Hyuna celebrates with relief upon seeing he's still alive. The warrior points worriedly to his burnt arm, and the young man just replies that he suffered a slight recoil. Ray informs her that he will need her up there, calling upon her strategic mind and sharp blade for combat. Hyuna looks at the immense floating fortress, and Ray confirms with seriousness that their destination is exactly there. The young man states with total determination that they will defeat the terrible dragon Zerixel in that place once and for all. The colossal monster roars furiously upon finding itself cornered in the floating arena created by the hero. Ray charges at high speed towards the dragon, initiating another final charge amidst the scene. The redhead jokes, asking if he's excited, and Ray retorts that she's just scared of the height. The fire dragon fires a relentless rain of flaming spheres towards the two warriors. Hyuna complains that its attacks have gotten even worse, and Ray calmly says they just need to dodge. She despairs, asking how they are going to defeat such an overpowered and monstrous creature. Ray asks for calm and explains that the beast's body structure is identical to that of the common dragons she usually hunts. She understands the situation and deduces that in this case, the vulnerable point must be when the beast roars. Dragons have a fire sac in their throat where they accumulate mana before releasing a destructive roar. She explains that when all that mana concentrates in the monster's throat, a temporary weak point opens up. At that exact moment, the mana barrier becomes extremely thin and vulnerable in the creature's neck region. Ray warns that mana is fluid but assures her that he has the perfect device to track this opening in the barrier. The redhead accepts the idea but questions how he intends to strike the weak point with his arm so injured. The young man gives a slight smile and reveals, to her surprise, that he won't be the one delivering the final, destructive blow. The dragon fires an overwhelming breath that explodes the stone debris around with a deafening impact. As she flees, Hyuna complains that she doesn't have the same destructive power as him to pierce the dragon's barrier. Ray walks with complete tranquility and assures with absolute certainty that she is perfectly capable of doing it. The young man turns with a confident look, revealing that she is the only person with the necessary trump card there. He refers to her ultimate move, which was too dangerous to be used on the busy streets. The memory of her immense stone golem crushing everything appears to illustrate the young woman's true destructive force. She realizes he has truly investigated her, but says her strength doesn't even come close to his mystical abilities. Ray says that doesn't matter and warns that the mystical ring will awaken the true power of her legendary sword. She gives an intrigued smile upon seeing that he also knows the secrets of her sword and asks who he really is. The protagonist humbly replies that he is just a rookie adventurer who knows a lot about tools. Ray declares that the conversation is over, and that the time has come to begin the coordinated attack against the terrible dragon. The immense dragon roars furiously, firing several simultaneous flaming blasts across the battlefield. Several colossal explosions devastate the floating arena, launching giant pieces of stone in all directions. The hero leaps nimbly, summoning a beautiful bluish magic shield to defend himself from the creature's overwhelming fire. He cracks the shield in the process and shouts Hyuna's name, calling his ally to act immediately in the combat. The redhead replies that she already knows what to do and advances, stepping firmly on the water while focusing all her mana. She runs swiftly, joking that he loves making her work to her limit, but focuses on fulfilling her role as bait. The colossal fire dragon opens its large jaw, focused on destroying the intruder running towards it. The warrior channels an immense amount of magical flames directly into her combat boots on the scene. She executes her special flaming steps technique, projecting a wave of fire slashes towards the dragon. With absurdly fast movements, the warrior launches through the air like a true gleaming comet of flames. Her magic slashes accurately hit the dragon's body, completely diverting the monster's attention from its target. She moves away, shouting Ray's name, signaling that she has perfectly executed the plan to distract the beast. From above, the protagonist charges a beautiful, glowing blue energy sphere in his hand to locate the weakness. Ray activates his magic detection sonar, sending a strong wave capable of tracking the opponent's entire mana flow. Ray remembers his old fallen comrades and once again feels that deep sense of trust in combat. The young man reflects with absolute determination that when someone places their faith in you, the only option is to respond. The immense golden gaze of the fire dragon shines intensely as it focuses on the opponent in front of it in the arena. The monstrous creature opens its maw of sharp teeth, accumulating more spheres of flames to hit him. Hyana watches from a distance, her heart in her throat, desperate to see the young man completely vulnerable in the line of fire. A succession of colossal detonations shakes the floating structure, covering the entire scene with smoke and debris. However, the magic detection device continues to float, glowing in the sky above the fire dragon's head. The hero emerges imposingly from the fire and coldly demands that the beast show all its strength in the fight. With a sharp gaze, Ray points his magic ring and declares that he has finally located the dragon's true weak point. The hero's device begins to scan the dragon's entire body, mapping the flow of magical energy in real time. The monster becomes enraged, opening its maw of sharp teeth to unleash one of its most devastating attacks of the combat. The sensor shows a point of bright blue light on the dragon's neck, finally revealing where the vulnerable spot has opened. Hyana runs with her magic sword, activating her legendary dance of flames to begin the final attack of the fight. A bright and colossal detonation consumes the scene, covering the dragon with an immense and destructive wave of heat. Ray watches with admiration and explains that this is actually the strongest secret technique of the warrior Hyona Carmine. She is the legendary absolute record holder in dragon hunting in the kingdom and concentrates all her strength in her sword art. The redhead fires her firebird technique directly at the throat of the fire dragon, which roars in fear. The energy blow hits the weak point squarely, causing an immense explosion of dust and shrapnel on the scene. Hyana floats tiredly in the air and celebrates with great relief, believing they have finally defeated the beast. However, the fire dragon reemerges in pure fury, firing a deadly red beam towards the two heroes. The warrior is in a complete state of shock upon noticing that the giant monster withstood her most powerful blow. Suddenly, an energy block prevents the destructive beam from striking the redhead at the very last millisecond. Ray appears beside her protectively and warns with a slight smile that the dragon's annoying barrier is gone for good. A legendary sword appears, enveloped in a whirlwind of bright light, ready to be used as the ultimate weapon in combat. The young warrior joins her and declares with absolute determination that now it's their turn to attack together.